It's Wednesday, March 4th, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we're covering on today's episode in what is becoming a routine. Yet again, have major companies backing out of tech conferences or canceling them altogether because of the coronavirus threat. We'll tell you the latest. And we'll head to our New York studio today where Jeremy Kaplan will be sitting down with Tony Utley from Honeywell to discuss their work and breakthroughs achieved with quantum computing. And we'll also be joined by Barry Conlon, a former Irish Special Forces member who is the CEO and founder of Overhaul, a company which looks to protect supply chains from disruptions, not unlike the coronavirus. And NASA has announced they will be revealing the official name of the Mars 2020 rover in a ceremony set for Thursday, but we already know it'll be one of 9 names submitted by children from around the country. We'll speculate and maybe we'll take some bets on who the winner will be. All this and more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. Well, hello there. This is Digital Trends Live. Thanks for tuning in wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button. Of course, we're live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. All while broadcasting live across a number of different platforms. We're on Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Dailymotion, Apple News, 2 different mobile apps, a smart television app, and at digitaltrends.com/live. Almost one breath. But wherever you're joining us, you can join in the conversation. Let us know what you want to talk about. We do want to hear it. I do see some comments coming through on Facebook. We appreciate those, and you can dispute what we say. We just want to have a conversation about it. So that's coming up. Let's get started, though. I'm Greg Nibbler here with Luke Larson. Hello, Luke.
I'm here to dispute everything you have to say.
Just say no. Every time I say something, you're wrong, Greg. It doesn't make any sense.
You said I could do it. So.
That's true. I did say that. I made a terrible mistake. All right, let's get started, though, with some talk about tech. And there is just no avoiding it. I mean, this is the story every single day. Every news organization is talking about it. There is no avoiding it, the coronavirus. And in yet another turn of events, we have a bunch more cancellations when it comes to the tech side of things, which is what we're going to focus on with this. One of those big ones being yesterday that Google has canceled I/O. Google I/O is canceled already. And this is something that takes place in May, just to confirm that? May is when this takes place. And this is a huge tech convention that happens every year.
Yeah, huge event. And like you said, I think the time ahead is what's kind of a precedent setter here.
Yeah.
Because so far, these conferences and conventions and stuff have been canceled really close to it. And honestly, this is a good move by Google, I think, because the closer you get to it, the more it's just a huge hassle, the more wasted money, the more people who were planning on
travel
going. Yeah, so the earlier the better, but it does set a precedent for future events, I think, later this year. So it really does kind of shake up what our expectations are for WWDC, which is just a month after that. Microsoft Build is in May. There's a lot of big events happening around that time that this kind of like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and I do see a lot of people talking about, is this overblown? Are people just jumping the gun on it? And I think, there might be something to be said about that, but at the same time, no company wants to be associated with the one that went ahead with their event, and then that's the one where coronavirus spread from it, because that's a nightmare anyway, but also that's going to be really difficult for a company to explain that off.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we're seeing a lot of these cancellations that are happening too, just over the concern of what if. And they're not the only ones looking at South by Southwest, which as of now is still on, although it's going to be without Twitter, Facebook, Intel, TikTok, all out.
Yeah.
Amazon Studios, even though they weren't going to have a huge presence, they were going to be premiering a couple of television shows there. They're not going to be going now. That was another one that was just announced. So that one I feel like is just kind of on. I mean, I hope it happens. Honestly, I think that would be great if it did happen, but I think it's a little bit of life support right now to see how much further it's going to go. And that's just another sign of the times with all of these different conventions. I know even outside of tech, Emerald City Comic-Con has a bunch of people backing out already, and that's a big event in Seattle. And it's just kind of hitting all of these different places.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and we should say for Google I/O in particular, this is what they have said is that this is just the physical version of the event that is being canceled. So it kind of implies, they haven't announced anything, but it implies that they're going to be doing a lot of this live streamed.
Yeah.
Which they do every year anyways, but I think it'll look pretty different. I'm assuming they're not going to go get in their stadium, an empty stadium, and do stuff. But I think that they'll still be doing their announcements, and I'm sure they'll still be doing a lot of their breakout sessions with developers and whatnot. So if anything, it does kind of show that a lot of things can still happen without the physical aspect. So
that those of us who have been live streaming, maybe we're ahead of the game. But what I'm saying is that is, though, something that I think we're going to see a lot of, like these virtual conferences, these live streams. Yeah, I agree. That's probably. I mean, all these products still have to be announced.
Yep.
You know, although there are some other issues to be concerned with. One other thing too, Amazon, apparently one of their employees in Seattle at the headquarters, also has contracted coronavirus. So they're dealing with that today. That's just kind of a recent report that came out yesterday.
Yeah, Seattle's not doing well.
Seattle is getting hit hard, with this right now. So it's definitely something. But as always on the show, I want to remind you: wash your hands. Just wash your hands in general, regardless of the coronavirus. When it goes away, it doesn't mean you should stop washing your hands. So,
that's true.
So just
good advice.
Set that as a precedent for from now on. Wash your hands. All right, there we go. And also, of course, follow good information online. There's a lot of false information out there about coronavirus and what causes it and whether or not you can drink Coronas and all of that. It's a lot of false information that's out there. So make sure you're verifying what you're looking at before you retweet it or post it or share something with other people, because even if you think it's satire, somebody else might not. Quite honestly, people believe everything they read online, so just be careful with this one. All right, continuing on though with trending topics, there is still going to be a new MacBook, and that's what I want to talk about with Luke, because apparently the coronavirus isn't going to stop this, is what I'm seeing as far as some of the reports, and that is a new 14-inch MacBook Pro.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about this?
So this is a report that came out yesterday from a pretty credible source saying that not only, there was a bunch of stuff in this one report. So not only are we getting is this MacBook coming, along with, they listed a number of other products as well that were not going to be affected by the coronavirus.
Yeah.
The fact that it's a 14-inch MacBook is news in itself, because that doesn't currently exist. Yeah. So what we're expecting is that this 14-inch MacBook is going to replace the 13-inch MacBook in the same way that the 16 replaced the 15. So if you keep that model in mind, basically what we're going to see is thinner bezels, new keyboard, a lot of those things that came to the 16-inch come into the 13-inch.
Will it actually physically be bigger, or is it just the reduced bezel size that's going to get that extra inch in there?
Yeah, it'll be similar to a similar actual footprint, but a larger screen.
But a larger screen in there.
That's what everybody wants.
And there's a couple of things with this too that I'm seeing as far as the reports, that it's going to use a mini LED display.
Yeah, so all the products that were listed in this report, the main thing was like, the mini LED displays will not be affected by the delays. Okay. So they listed a bunch of products that are all coming out, I think this year, that all have these mini LED displays. These are the first laptops we're seeing, first tablets we're seeing using this display technology. It's kind of an alternative to OLED.
Right, it's something you see in televisions, I know.
Starting to see in televisions quite a bit. But now, and we saw the first of these come to like monitors last year and earlier this year. So, but coming to a product as high profile as a MacBook, but also listed an iPad Pro, the two different sizes of iPads, the iPad Mini, all of these will be getting this mini LED display this year, which kind of puts us in the weird thing is we don't know about the timing. Like, this could come this spring. We had an event that was being rumored for the end of March. Right. But I highly doubt that they are going to be doing a physical event. Yeah, because that's right. That's another one. And Apple typically doesn't usually announce it until like maybe a couple of weeks before. But I bet that's going to be out the window. Yeah, it's either going to be delayed or they'll just not have an event at all and just do everything. Just roll them out. With press releases and briefings and whatnot. So I don't know if we're going to see this this month, but it'll either be sometime in the spring or like in the fall. I think we'll see a lot of these iPad announcements and whatnot. So really don't know. The report didn't say, but it is coming, and it hasn't been this new display technology has not been delayed by coronavirus. So that's big. Apple seems pretty like. Tim Cook keeps saying, "Oh, I think China's going to figure it out, and I think everything will be fine." So well, you got to be optimistic. Yeah, you got to be optimistic. It's just fine, just fine. Like, everything is fine. I mean, I guess as the laptop itself, like for you, since this is stuff that you study, I mean, is this something you're excited about? Oh yeah, I'm super pumped about this because the 16-inch MacBook Pro that came out last year was really what we've all wanted in this line. But it was weird that we only got the 16 and the 13 was still stuck with this like keyboard that everybody hates, and it's like I wouldn't feel comfortable like recommending people buy that, So the fact that we're going to finally get this update, and I like the larger screen size. I think that's perfect. 14 inches is a perfect size for a laptop, especially if it has a little more power in it. So I'm really excited about this possible announcement. Another thing that was included was an update to the iMac Pro, which hasn't been touched for a couple years. It was first announced in 2017. And this is their, all-in-one that's like crazy powerful.
That's the one that's also really expensive, right?
Really expensive. Yeah. Not the Mac Pro, but it's the all-in-one kind of version of that.
Yeah.
So we're expecting and also an update to that at some point this year. So that's cool. It was like a lot of like cool stuff that was kind of confirmed in this report. So we'll see if any of it comes out.
Right. Yeah. Who knows when it's going to happen? And but supposedly supply chains aren't affected by this particular one. It's definitely affecting other things. Like I know the iPhones could be delayed.
Yeah, some of those those products with higher volume, we gotta think that they're facing some big challenges. But but then again, if you're one of the richest companies in the world, you think you'd be able to figure that out?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, you've got I think we determined yesterday like $40 billion in cash just laying around.
It's like,
so
can you just
maybe it was more
build
than
a
that. Maybe it
new
was 400 billion? I don't even know. It's a lot of billions that they've got just laying around. All right, so continuing on from there though, that's anyway. We've got a write up on this at digitaltrends.com, so definitely take a look at that. Continuing on with some trending news, I had to bring this up because it's trending everywhere. So this must be what people want to know about. Visco. How many of you out there on the Visco? So Visco has a new video editing tool, which actually is kind of interesting, utilizing facets of a bunch of different platforms, kind of combining them all into one. And I bring this up because it's another platform trying to stand out from everybody else. And Visco Montage is what they're doing. So it's how you create a video essentially from a mashup of different things that you have. So it's kind of like a combination of Photoshop, iMovie, and PowerPoint all in one video editor. Which is an interesting use case of this kind of tech. What it's going to be used for beyond just the Visco platform, I don't know. But could this be something that other people incorporate in? I don't know. Luke, what do you think about this?
So I'm a big fan of Visco itself.
Yeah.
I know next to nothing about the social media aspect side of it.
Right.
And the fashion trends that have come from this app. But I've always known Visco as like the best photo editing app, basically, that exists.
And it is. I mean, they're really good with that.
Yeah, it's super high quality, really easy to use. Their like filters and presets are awesome. So I'm excited about this as like a video element. Who knows what what weird trend will come out of it? But, for people for me, I know when I was in college, like this was what everybody used for video or for photo editing. So like, it's cool to see a video element to it. And then, I'm kind of surprised. Visco is one of those companies, like I just looked it up, like they're completely independent still, haven't been purchased by anybody.
We've had the founder here on the show before on Digital Trends Live talking about it. And this, I guess, is something that you can try out for free. So you can try it out on iOS or Android. Right now, but then after the trial, it's $20 for the subscription, which is something that they're trying to push people toward that. I mean, naturally, you're trying to get subscriptions on that. But I mean, if this is something that takes off, that could be a really unique way for them to stand out. And like you said, their photo editing is great. So
a lot of people use their presets in like Lightroom and stuff like that. So they're not like, this isn't like TikTok. This isn't like let's throw this like silly app out there. Like I think it's going to be really high quality and like. Actually, people will want to use it for their stuff. So
well, we've got a write-up about it at digitaltrends.com. You can take a look at, and then of course you can try out the subscription. So let us know what you think about it. I mean, I'm curious for people using it if this is something that you think is a real game changer, or whether it's just something that's unique that kind of stands out. We'll find out as people start trying it. But check it out at digitaltrends.com. All right, final news topic here, and then we do have our product of the day coming up. Tesla is going to be getting some more competition. Now, we know that already. There's a lot of companies trying to come after Tesla, although their sales have been really good. Tesla's kind of killing it right now. But BMW has debuted their Concept i4, and this is going to be a competitor to the Model 3. And if you take a look at it, we've got some images that come out. And I will say with BMW, and this is based upon our reporting from Run and Glon, typically when they come out with concepts, those do end up getting made, or at least some version of it. So it's not one where you just
This isn't just like a prototype thing.
Yeah. It's not like the Avatar car that we saw at CES. So this is likely to be some kind of version here of that. And it's honestly, it's a really good-looking car to be clear. Some of the parts of it too that are of interest. It's got an 80 kilowatt per hour lithium-ion battery, so that's 270 mile range. That's definitely in competition with that as far as right now. It's got 530 horsepower, which puts it on par with a V8. But the inside is what I thought was really interesting too, just the giant screens, which is something that you're going to be seeing more and more of. And they expect it to be probably in time for the 2022 year. So this isn't going to be something that you're going to get right away. Or maybe next year, possibly in Germany, but 2022 here in the US. I don't know, what do you think about this?
I do like the look of the inside.
Yeah.
I feel like the interior is pretty sweet looking. I keep going back. I keep looking at these photos, and I keep going back and forth as to whether I like that grill.
Like the design, yeah.
Maybe it's just like I need to get used to it, but it has this. If you see the photos, it just has this giant grill that's like tall and weird. It's just unlike anything you're used to seeing in a car like this.
It is.
I don't know, do you like it?
I kind of like it. I kind of like the design change on it. But again, I probably need to see it in person. Also, I'm not going to be getting one, so it really doesn't matter. but I like the look of it.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of it.
It's got some of those like edges, like jagged edges that are kind of like, I don't know, futuristic.
That's what I kind of love though about all of these new e-vehicles that are coming out, just because they have so much more room for design.
Yeah.
Like to change it up a little bit. Some of it's good, some of it's not good.
Right. They're taking chances at least.
They're definitely taking
like,
chances.
Well, this is a futuristic car in terms of the engine. Why don't we make it like looks like it comes from a science fiction movie or something? Which is they don't have to do that. Like they can make it look like a basic car, but
yeah. But that's what they're going with. I mean, let us know what you think about that too. I'm really curious to see how people respond to that. But you can take a look at that at digitaltrends.com.
Hey, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. It's now time for the product of the day.
Yes, indeed. It is the product of the day. Okay, here's what we've got. We've got the Ring Video Doorbell. Now, this isn't just any Ring Video Doorbell. This is the Ring Doorbell 2. So this is the upgraded version. Now, you may have one at home. You may not. If you don't, these things are really cool. So number one, the upgraded version has 1080 HD video with live view. So the video is actually upgraded. I've got the regular one at home, and 1080 does make a big difference. So you would definitely want to get that. It's got motion activated alerts. It's got two-way talk. So say you're at home or you're wherever you are, and you hear this, the doorbell rings. There it is. And you're like, okay, who's at my door? You can actually talk to them directly. Say it's some kid on your porch trying to steal your package. You can yell at them directly through your app. I've done that before. And you can also have adjustable motion detection, so you can you can sit there and adjust it so not everything is setting it off all the time. It's got a quick release battery pack. That's an upgraded thing for the Doorbell 2, and a lifetime theft protection. And here's the other thing too. So say you get this, you're like, silver, but Greg, I don't really like silver. Silver's not my deal. It's not my jam. Uh-oh. Now I can't get it off. But I was going to say, you can. I'm not so good at it. But you can actually change it up and use a black one. So there it is. You just imagine that I took the silver one off and put the black one on there. So that is something that you can also do. You can also get the Ring Protect. It's $3 a month, and that way you can get all of your videos. Right now, this one is on sale. I believe it's $199. So that is what's on right now. So you can pick that up. Click the link right there. Just click that link that you're seeing on whatever platform you're watching on. Click the link, and that way you can go there and pick that up. And this is the Ring Video Doorbell 2, and it's pretty cool. So pick that up. All right, let's continue on. I tried to get it off. I practiced that, actually. Seriously, I practiced it before the show, trying to get this thing off, and it's very secure. So don't worry about that. It's definitely secure. All right, we're coming up. Actually, Luke, would you like to stick around for some Read 'em and Weep?
I would love to.
Excellent.
To do some Read and Weep.
Let's take a look at some of the comments that are trending across the internet. So that's coming up next. Stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Is Digital Trends Live. Thanks for joining us. It is now time for Read 'em and Weep, where we take a look at some of the trending comments across the internets and maybe some comments directed directly to us. I'm Greg Nibbler, here with Luke Larson. Luke, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready to hear that disputing of everything we say.
it's gonna happen. Jody Parson, happy birthday, PlayStation 2. Let's not forget the most iconic game. I'm trying to take a look at what game is that? I don't know. All I know is I played. Oh, it's the Simpsons game. Okay, the Simpsons game on there. I forgot about the Simpsons game. Wasn't it terrible? Am I wrong on that?
I guess it's not that iconic.
I did like the arcade version.
Oh.
That one's still fun. They've got it at ground control. That's
Didn't own a PlayStation 2.
Yeah, I didn't either. But I knew people who did. I knew a guy. I used to play Twisted Metal a lot.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, that was fun. There were some heated battles with Twisted Metal. All right, so PlayStation 2. So it's the birthday of PlayStation 2. All right, there we go. It's one of the best days of the year, National Grammar Day. Ooh, okay, Luke, as an editor, is this one of your favorite days?
I don't know, but I was trying to pay close attention to see if they spelled something wrong in their tweet or
Yeah, to see if you can pick it apart. Yeah.
Yeah, grammar. I like grammar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fan, okay.
I don't like correcting people's grammar, but you should have good grammar.
Yeah, okay. So Luke's just going to silently judge you, but he won't say anything about it. So there's that. All right, taking a look here at some of the trending comments across the internet, and that is what we do here for Read 'em and Weep. And we want to know your thoughts on these as well. That's part of the fun of this. So National Grammar Day. Did not know that. And there are too many national days, by the way. All right, Nini. Regarding Samsung Galaxy Buds Plus versus Apple AirPods Pro, which is better? LOL, the Buds Plus sound quality is way better. You must clean your ears, LOL. Okay, a lot of starting and ending with the LOL. Number one, how's that for the grammar?
I think that's wrong.
Okay, so it started off bad. Nini. So I'm wondering, I mean, has this person tried both of these out?
That's what I was
We've done our own comparison.
You know what?
Because I don't even think the Galaxy Buds Plus are out yet for you to get. I mean, if they are, they're barely out.
Yeah, we tried them at the press conference.
Yeah, we had a review unit, but I mean, I don't know, maybe Nini knows something.
Don't you know everybody on the internet knows everything? They've tried everything. They've done everything.
We're wrong. Sorry about that. Steven, major faux pas. Okay, regarding TCL 8 Series Mini LED unboxing and basic setup. Mini LED.
There it is.
Major faux pas. You never lay a flat screen TV flat like that. My guess after that is the next reviewer of that set will definitely have issues. So you're saying that Caleb doesn't know what he's doing. That's what you're implying right there. Steven, I appreciate you commenting on that, but I am gonna say, I doubt there's many people out there that know more about televisions than Caleb Dennison.
I mean, I can't imagine there are many people who've opened more TVs and set up more TVs.
Seriously.
At the very least, the guy has set up so many TVs in his life.
Also, shouldn't you be able to lay a television flat? Isn't that something that was from plasma TVs or whatever?
Maybe this guy's still using a really old TV.
That could be it. All right, Leslie Gaither regarding Verizon's Super Bowl 54 demo made me a 5G believer. COVID-19, oh my Lord, I love these. COVID-19 is a cover for 5G. Wait, I gotta say it in the proper way. COVID-19 is a cover for 5G. Jesus is coming, soon repent and get ready. All right, there's a lot wrapped in there. It's a cover for 5G.
I haven't heard that one
hide
before.
the 5G with the coronavirus. So coronavirus is spreading 5G, but Jesus is coming.
It's a cover for 5G.
So you have to repent. There is so much to unwrap.
Oh, maybe it's as the coronavirus is everybody's freaking out about it, they're secretly setting up 5G towers in every city.
That makes sense.
And then gonna spread the waves, the harmful waves into your brain.
You said it on the internet. I believe it. So there it is. Elon Musk just wants to say that I support Jack as Twitter CEO. He has a good heart. Ooh, is that a kind of an underhanded one? Oh, bless you.
He's made a ton of mistakes, but he has a good heart.
Bless your heart. Yeah, I don't know if that is or not. Yeah. Yeah, there is I know a concerted effort because there's somebody who bought up a bunch of shares of Twitter to try to push him out. He's got some issues going on.
I think he's supporting Jack.
I think it is supportive. Okay.
Yeah, but it's coming from Elon, so it's a
Bless
little
your
weird.
heart. He's got a sweet spirit. All right, well, there we go. That's just, again, taking a look at some of the trending things from across the internet. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. So coming up next, we're actually going to be heading to our New York studio, and we'll be talking about that here in just a minute. We've got Tony Utley, who's the president of Honeywell Quantum Solutions. So we're going to be talking about quantum solutions, quantum computing. What can it actually do, and how close are we to actually getting one out into the market? Well, closer than you think. So that's what's going to be part of the discussion. Before we go to break, though, thank you, Luke.
Yep.
Thank
Stay
you very
healthy.
much. Yes, thank you. I cordon myself off in here. I never leave this studio because I don't want to get sick. So stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you very much for joining us wherever you are. We appreciate it. You know, we like to talk a lot about technology here, obviously, but certainly future technology and the promise of it is something that we enjoy having conversations about. You think about 5G, AI, autonomous vehicles, but what about quantum computing? That is what the discussion is going to be next, and we're heading to our New York studio where Jeremy Kaplan is standing by with Tony Utley from Honeywell Quantum Solutions. Jeremy, I'm going to hand it off to you. Really excited to hear what Tony has to say.
Yeah, me too. Quantum computing is a fascinating concept. You mentioned some emerging existing technologies, 5G, AI, IoT, things like that. Those are big topics. Those are a lot easier to wrap your head around than the whole thing of quantum computing, which is like a bunch of physicists got together and had a bunch of beers and said, what could we do if? And then Tony Utley's team said, we can make that happen for you. Tony, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
I don't know if it's even possible, but can you explain to us on a high level what the heck quantum computing is all about?
I will do my best. It starts by just thinking about it very differently. So most people think about classical computing and then try to have that be what they use as their model, and that's not how quantum computers work.
Okay.
They have very almost magical type properties around them, and one of the biggest is something called superposition, right? A quantum bit can be both a 0 and a 1 at the same time.
This is the Schrodinger's cat thing.
So both, how can it do that, but what does that even mean? Well, what it means is when you're in the middle of a computation using a quantum bit, a qubit, it can take on both of those values. And so if you have a single qubit, it could take on a 0 and a 1. That's 2 values. If it was 10 qubits, it would be just over 1,000 values. If it's 50 qubits, that's 1.1 quadrillion values that would be being considered at the same time.
Unlike a traditional computer where you've got a 1 and a 0, it's an on or an off state.
1 or a 0, and yes, it's always in that one value. Yep.
So a completely different look at calculations, math.
What will end up being viewed by most people is it'll do computations faster. Okay, well, but it's really looking at problems that are intractable today, that you just can't even do with classical computers, and so you don't try. Or you do something, the next best thing, which is you simulate, you make a guess, and then you do some analytics around that. So example, in pharmaceutical development, you are developing a molecule and you're testing that out. You'd like to find a binding energy, and it's like finding a key that fits in a very specific lock.
Sure.
You can't pick every single key, and so you try to do the best key you can. The promise of quantum computing is that you check all keys at the same time, and then you're able to open that lock.
Even the example sounds like something that I couldn't possibly do.
Right.
So the big breakthrough, you guys, Honeywell announced this just yesterday, which is the ion trap.
Yeah, so you
brought in here. Maybe
I
hold
brought
up and
an
show it
example of an ion trap, and even if you zoom in, you'll probably miss that right in the very, very center. There is a little rectangle, and that rectangle for us is, think of it as a platform upon which we levitate individual atoms. So, you know, if you do this, if you put your hands together like that, inside of your hands are about 1 trillion atoms. Now in our physics package that we put together around this trap, size of about a basketball, we use an ultra-high vacuum, and we pump out 5 times less particles in outer space. So we're trying to clear the way, ultra vacuum, to be able to just have the atoms that we care about basically levitating over the surface of this trap. And what the trap is doing is creating an electromagnetic field around these charged particles, these ions. That's why it's called trapped ion. And you turn that ion into a qubit. How do you turn it into a qubit? You shoot it with a laser. It's like a James Bond movie.
You make it sound so simple.
If you
want to
turn the atom into an ion, you shoot it with a laser. If you want to do an operation on it, you shoot it with a laser. If you want to measure it, you shoot it with a laser. It's great.
And
you
so
got
you
lots
do
of
that
lasers.
at a very large scale, and all of a sudden you've got the ability to handle some problems that couldn't be solved.
Which is, it's that super scale, being able to infinitesimally move around these atoms, and the kind of computation you can do. It's incredible.
We were talking about this before, and I was saying I wonder if this helps you to address some very complex calculations, some math that feels really hard. Queuing, and you said, well, we think that's queuing standard methods.
It's not. It really looks at. I'll give you an example. Something that we're using in Honeywell. We're in the aerospace business. You know, if you are flying on a plane and you're going from airport A to airport B, point A's and B's, and a bunch of planes, that's become an exponentially scaling problem.
Sure.
Exponentially scaling problems are problems that computers handle. So what you do is you take a problem like that, shrink it down, run quantum computers, knowing that as you scale them up, as you scale up that quantum volume, you're able to scale the size of that problem. And so it's just a different way of thinking about these really complex issues.
What's crazy about that, you have me thinking, so it almost opens up the possibility to address some problems we didn't even know we could solve before. So you have me thinking.
That's exactly right.
We have very localized ways to deal with traffic, for example. But what if we wanted to address the problem of traffic in the United States and look at all the cars and how they all interact across all the different highways with all the different traffic lights and speed zones? Create a
Extrapolate problems like this optimization, this route optimization. Those are the kinds of things be able to take that. And it's becoming more complex with the data that is available. We have sensors on everything. It's great. That's what Honeywell does too. We put sensors on everything and be able to compute at the edge. Being able to take that massive amount of information, do something very tangible, practical with it, is going to take a new kind of computing. So
you mentioned the word practical and tangible, and I think those are important ones here because a lot of this stuff feels very heady and very, the physicists have been having too much to drink. At what point does Honeywell turn this into an actual product or a solution to market and sell? Is that today? Is that just happened?
It is, yes, it's happening right now. We've been in our big phase. We've had a number of partners working with us to kick the tires on our system as we get ready to do our kind of full commercial release. We were very excited to announce the strategic collaboration that we have with JP. They are a very forward-leaning company in terms of thinking about the applications that quantum computing could really address, things like fraud detection, things like using AI as a part of their trading strategies within their own applications. Those are things where the promise is there. You can start on initial applications and then start to think about what you'd have to change in your business to really take advantage of that. And the companies and the organizations that we're working with now, that's what we're thinking about.
Take this the wrong way. I think about Honeywell as the company that's going to make a massive breakthrough when it comes to quantum computing. People think about Honeywell as the thermostat company. But there's so much more going on behind the scenes. There's the aerospace division and what people are a little less familiar with that. But there's, by the way, also a quantum computing group and working behind for half a decade?
It's a decade, yeah.
Who decided this was a good idea? Where did this come from?
I have to be honest, I was part of it. No, it starts with, and I get the question all the time, because the reason you ask the question, the reason people ask the question is because they don't know what it takes to build a quantum computer. They don't. If you did...
They don't know what it is.
Exactly. And so if you did, if you knew that it took a big ultra-high vacuum chamber and all the systems that go around that, if you knew it took expertise in cryogenics, if you knew that it took magnetic field generation and manipulation, RF, so radio frequency generation manipulation, ultra-high precision control systems, lasers, but these are things that are required and things that Honeywell's been doing for decades in our aerospace and defense business,
Sure.
in our chemicals business, in our oil and gas controls processing business. What we did, and this is what Honeywell does really well, is we are a complex system integrator. That is what we do. And you can't get more complex than trying to put together a system integration around quantum computing. So a decade ago, we thought, if we put all these together, we put challenges in front of us, as we walk through those challenges, about 4 years ago, we said, we could be best in the world at this. And so we set out to develop, launch, and now release trapped ion quantum computing.
Congratulations, huge
thank you.
milestone. What's the next step? What are you looking for?
It's really applications. It is now, as hard as it is to build a quantum computer and operate one, it's also challenging to program one.
Sure.
Do you know how to run on a computer?
What, Windows 10 can't run on it? I can use Linux, right? It's that easy.
Eventually, there will be that abstraction layer that allows some of us to be able to write. Right now, it takes a group of folks that are called theorists. These are hybrid mathematician physicists, and there are not many of them in the world. And so being able to think about a problem and translate it into a quantum algorithm takes a lot of effort. So we have a very capable group of theorists within our own team. Some of the announcement that we did yesterday around Honeywell investments in Cambridge quantum computing and investments in Zapata computing are because those companies have both software platforms and access to algorithm writers, these theorists who can really help do that translation layer. So the next step is going and proving out that these use cases do it.
Tony, I could talk to you all day, and I probably still wouldn't understand it, but I've had a great time. Thank you very much for coming in to join us.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Please stick around. We have Drew Prindle, our senior editor of features, coming in to talk about one of the new series we've launched called Ideas. Just around the corner, so please do stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes. We're good.
Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Again, thank you for joining us. Appreciate all of you that do. Hit that subscribe button on whatever platform you're on. That way you get notifications when we go live and to join in the conversations we get to have. And right now, we're going to talk about a new segment at Digital Trends, and that is called Bold Ideas. To do so, we have Mr. Drew Prindle. Hello.
How's it going, Greg?
Doing well. Bold Ideas.
Yes, indeed.
I love it.
Yeah.
So what is this segment actually about?
So this came out of just like a creative meeting that we had, and it was like, obviously the world faces a lot of problems at any given time. But sometimes the best solutions to those problems are not just like these methodical, slow ideas or ways to solve them. It's the big, crazy, the wild ideas that you're almost like, that's so crazy that it might just work.
Right.
So that's the premise of this whole series is we've rounded up a bunch of these wild, crazy solutions to big picture problems.
And I love that kind of stuff. And I know we've got a few here just to kind of like highlight what some of the things are that we're talking about with this. And this first one, I'm just going to read the title of it, DNA data storage.
Yes.
DNA data storage.
Yeah, so like this addresses the problem we have way too much data and we can't store all of it.
Yeah, that is true.
We're producing more data today than we ever have. I think in 2017 alone, we created more data just in that year than we had in the years from 2010 to 2013 combined.
Wow.
And that's because more video is going through the internet, and just more of our daily lives are happening on the internet, and all those bits and bytes they add up.
Yeah, I mean, you think about artificial intelligence or all the algorithms that are being created and all that data that's being collected on social media. I mean, that's a ton of data.
Yeah,
right?
and
so storing it. But DNA storage.
We don't have enough space to store it in. Pretty soon, our current hard drive technology is not going to cut it. And second of all, our existing storage mediums don't last very long.
Yeah.
So DNA is kind of seen as one of the potential solutions to this because it's super, super information dense. 1 gram of DNA can hold about 215 petabytes, and a petabyte is 100 million gigabytes.
Wow.
So lots and lots of information in the stuff that's flowing through our veins right now. And it's, this idea of storing information in DNA has been around for a while, but we spoke to this one company in particular that has this crazy approach to it. So the problem with DNA storage is that it's really, really like difficult to do right now.
Yeah.
Think of it in terms of just like writing something out by hand.
Okay.
The company that we spoke to has basically invented a printing press. So they can reproduce chunks of data stored in DNA way faster and way more reliably than many of the other startups that are working on this.
So we're talking about storing it in like biological material.
Yes.
Wow.
So you can store pictures, video, anything in just like a little vial of DNA. And the great thing about that is it's completely stable. It'll last for hundreds of thousands of years without degrading as long as it's kept, in the right conditions.
Yeah.
So
That's
wild story.
Bonkers. That's just one. So that's one example. And there's a full article at this kind of going into the details of it. I will definitely be reading that after this because that's fascinating. Going on to something else here in this bold ideas category, we've got 3D printed rockets.
Yeah, so not only 3D printed rockets, but like the cool thing about these is they're significantly smaller than the rockets that SpaceX and NASA and ULA are launching right now. So that's kind of been one of the things that's been keeping anybody but governments from going to space is like the rockets are massive, the payloads are huge, and in order to get on one of those rockets and get your stuff up into space, you're competing with these huge multinational corporations and governments that have like super deep pockets.
Yeah,
so
hundreds of millions of dollars.
Getting stuff up into space is crazy expensive. So the way that Rocket Lab, which is the company that we talked to, is doing it is they're taking the direct opposite approach, right? They're making considerably smaller rockets with smaller payloads that cost less, but they can launch way more frequently because they're less complex to produce. So they're 3D printing the engines for them. They're making the rocket bodies out of just like cheap, readily available materials.
Wow.
Just like carbon fiber and other stuff like that. And they're doing smaller launches, but more frequent launches.
And that's part of that democratization of space. Getting everybody up there, and there's issues with that too. But opening it up to more companies and more governments and more people to do things. I mean, that's pretty cool actually. And looking at that, the price looks like it's way less.
Yeah, and I think the one of the big factors that goes into this is actually something that Rocket Lab has nothing to do with. It's the fact that now the stuff that we want to get into space it doesn't need to be huge. We can use small sats and CubeSats, and there's been a huge revolution happening behind the scenes as well for that. So now it's like with this launch platform and with the technologies that have shrunken down that we can now use for like satellites and research in space, those two things have coalesced and made getting to space much cheaper and easier than it's ever been.
I know Rocket Lab's been making a lot of noise too, because didn't they just have their facility built in California?
Yes, they've got one in Huntington Beach. They also have their main launch facility in New Zealand, and it's sweet. It's on this like island-looking thing, and it's just
awesome.
out on the spire of it. It
just looks cool.
It's this pretty sweet launch pad, just like surrounded by
by the ocean,
New Zealand ocean, and all that stuff.
Cool. So that's one of the bold ideas right there. So 3D printed rockets, and then let's see here. What are the other ones that I know we're starting to run a little bit low on time? Talking about food, the food side of things, about beanless coffee.
Yeah,
why would we want
this one's
coffee?
pretty well because you hear about like meatless meat, like plant-based burgers and stuff like that all the time. This is kind of like the flip side of that coin. So the problem is most of the coffee that
coffee made of meat, would that be one of them?
That's a bold idea for you. But no, so the issue is that the two coffee plants that we get most of our coffee from, Arabica and Robusta, they are very, very susceptible to climate change. Like they can only grow in like a very specific region, right? Okay. And with rising temperatures are fiddling with that, so it's also, also demand for coffee is going up like crazy, so they're bulldozing forests so that they can make room to grow coffee plants because global demand. So there's all of these issues surrounding coffee. And so this company in Seattle was like, why are we still doing it with like plants that we have to grow? Why can't we just like figure out the essential like chemicals and components that make up a cup of coffee and then just recreate that through a series of like molecules? They call it molecular coffee. And that's basically what they've done. They've picked out all of the esters and flavor components and little bits here and there, put them all together, and made a coffee that does not require beans at all. And according to Jenny, our reporter who actually went and tasted this stuff and checked it out, she was not confident that she could pick it out of a blind taste test.
Wow.
Compared to other coffees.
Is that good? Now I kind of want to try. Is it for sale?
I think so. They've got a tasting room in Seattle, and I think they had a Kickstarter campaign that they ran, I think like about a year ago. So they should be getting off the ground about now, and yeah, you might be able to get it. One cool thing that about this that I thought was particularly interesting is because they're building it from the ground up, like molecule by molecule, they can actually just leave out the undesirable stuff. So they can make a cup of coffee that has 0 bitterness.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just completely constructing it from scratch.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I want to try that. As somebody who drinks a lot of coffee in the morning, I'm down to try that.
Let's get him on DT Live.
Yep. Atomo coffee?
Atomo coffee.
Atomo coffee. Yeah, come on down. We would like to try some of that coffee. Well, I know that we're out of time, and there's more that's on this site, though, on this section for bold ideas at digitaltrends.com. There's another one we were going to talk about how to grow meat out of thin air, but you're going to have to read that at digitaltrends.com and follow up on all of those. I love this section. We may have to do this a little more often.
Oh, totally.
Some bold idea sections. Well, Drew, thank you very much.
Yeah, always fun.
As always, and thank you to everybody who's joining us here, wherever you're watching. Here's what we have coming up next. We heard a lot about, with the coronavirus and how it's disrupting supply chains. Well, there's a company that's kind of working on that can mitigate some of those issues, and that is Overhaul. We're going to have Barry Conlon on right after this break to talk about that. So stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. We do appreciate it. And I know I say that a lot, but hit the subscribe button, share the show, let other people know about it, because we like to talk about technology. And certainly right now, there is no denying that the coronavirus is affecting all kinds of different industries. And the supply chain for a lot of companies is being disrupted because of the fact that factories are closed. But right now, we're going to talk about maybe some ways to overcome that and actually mitigate some of those issues. Joining us, we have Barry Conlon from Overhaul. Barry, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, Greg. How you doing? Great to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here, and excited to talk about this and talk about some different ways that we can overcome that and what some of the issues actually are that companies are facing. But can you give us just a quick rundown of what Overhaul is and what maybe you saw in the marketplace that made you want to create this to solve those issues?
Yeah, sure. Overhaul provides large global shippers with a real-time visibility platform that allows them to be situationally aware of where their product is at any point in the supply chain, complete end to end. So you're in the position as a logistician within these companies to know exactly what's happening at that moment in time. So real-time data just allows you to make better decisions, allows you to kind of steer around some of these kind of disruption events like weather, or as you're seeing now with the coronavirus, you have the ability to actually plan in a much more kind of real-time fashion because you know what's happening.
And traditionally, that's not been the case, right? For supply chains, you don't have that much control over it.
Well, if you think about supply chain, traditionally, as we look at it over the past, it's always been seen as the kind of sleepy side of the business. It's something that, you move your product, it's taken care of, it happens by magic, that kind of thing. But when you look at what Amazon and companies like Amazon have done, they've really weaponized supply chain as a competitive edge. They know everything about every part of their supply chain. When these critical handshakes happen, when it's coming from maritime to surface, they're completely in charge of all that, and they use that information to make better decision making that removes costs from their supply chain, which is probably one of the largest costs that most global shippers will actually manage when they're getting their product to their customer. And that's really the digital transformation that's occurring in large global corporations today. Everybody wants to figure out their digital strategy and do what Amazon is doing. So they want to save money, but they also want to compete.
So looking at it from that way and understanding, that where things are at all times and having that data, I guess, going back to overhaul, how do you keep track of that? How do you digitize like a supply chain to know where everything's at?
Well, just about everything in the supply chain today is connectable. And that's an important point, because if you're dealing with a ship, a plane, or a truck, they've all got several pieces of technology that can be linked into rather quickly and efficiently. You also have the capacity, if you're looking for other data points like temperature, or you're looking for the handling characteristics, or more importantly, the chain of custody of your product, how well it's being handled by your third-party vendors, which in most cases you don't own or don't even know or may not be directly contracted with. You have the ability to insert sensors that give you an immediate turnkey control of the data flow, and you can see that true end-to-end supply chain visibility. So we can go either way. We can go through the insertion of a piece of technology that will allow you to have that immediate control and read the compliance as it's happening, or take somebody to the integration path of tapping into this data source that has the data, and then the problem a shipper has is there's just so much data.
Yeah.
There's so many different technologies. You're using so many different partners, 3PL, 4PL, and it's very, very hard to get a single unified view or one pane of glass where you can actually know what's going on. And the other problem, if you liken it to, anybody picking up or being picked up by an Uber, it's great to know that car is coming around the corner when it's coming around the corner. You have that situational awareness of where that is. But if you have hundreds of thousands of Ubers coming onto your screen, there's just nothing you can do with that. It's like an overload of data. So what we do in Overhaul is we parse that data in a way that we prioritize it, that you can set your level of tolerance. So if you want to know something, typically it's you want to know something bad or something that shouldn't be happening, we can push that information to you in a way that you can be right on top of that immediately. And then all the other minutiae, when everything is going okay based on the instructions you've set into the system, you can just focus on where the problem areas is. And that just drives efficiency, removes roadblocks, and allows you to actually have a faster supply chain and a more secure supply chain.
I mean, that sounds like a tremendous advantage for anybody who's kind of trying to keep track of that, and also getting notifications when something goes wrong. But you mentioned the massive amounts of data, which is something that we're seeing a lot of companies try to incorporate in and figure out different ways to handle that. On your end, you're still getting that 100,000 different Ubers that are showing up. So how does Overhaul manage that massive data for all of these different companies?
Yeah, so we have an automated workflow function built into our technology. It underlines everything we do. So the customer can decide based on the supply chain. It typically takes half a day. You sit down with the supply chain experts within the company or the managers, and you determine, okay, what's important to you? What do you want to know? And when do you want to know it? And that's typically the exception criteria that we can kind of bring that down to package level, not just lane geography. We can, more importantly, actually, is that not just that we're going to be able to kind of push this alert to you, but rather than just push it to you as a business intelligence data point, like, what do you want us to do with it? So why don't you let us go directly to the root source of the problem and fix it? So it's not just correction or detection, it's correction as well, which really is the panacea for most companies. It's great that they know, but they'd rather that it went away, particularly if it's something they don't want to see happening. And if you're dealing with sensitive products like fresh foods, if you're looking at temperature for pharma, if you're looking at government compliance around, what could be put into a load rather than taken out, these are really important problems that you're trying to solve. So allow us to actually engage directly with your partners, and then, give them the data they need to do the job well. Because in most cases, a lot of non-compliance is they just don't have the data. They don't know what they're supposed to do. In our world, we can deliver that to them in a friendly fashion, a collaborative fashion that actually just enhances the collaboration of your supply chain and just speeds it up.
Wow. Going back to what we talked about at the beginning here, talking about using coronavirus for an example, and we see a lot of tech companies who are having issues because factories are closed. So utilizing this kind of data, what would they have been able to do, I guess, to kind of avoid some of these issues?
Well, you're really skipping some middle steps with data transfer. I'll give you one example. It's not directly Corona related, but we're in a position where we're able to see all the maritime movements around the globe. We know what customer packages or containers or pallets or whatever are on that ship. We see several events there recently in Asia where, due to impact of storms, that there was a 180 movement. The ship basically turned around because it was heading towards some dangerous weather. We see that in real time. Now, by the time that information would get to a logistician, one of our customers in somewhere in Middle America, it could be days, if not weeks, or even worse, it's like, oh, it's late. What happened? And kind of condensing that information and kind of like sending it as the first point of contact to that logistician, they're now in a position to actually make plans or better plans that can really mitigate these kind of shortages that we probably will be seeing right now. I think it's just getting caught up now with the coronavirus, but understanding what's moving and how it's moving and what are the flow patterns are very important for that decision maker. But typically, there's 4 or 5 different individuals involved in the transfer of that data, and they're just all potential roadblocks. And that's not that people are trying to deliberately not share the data. It's just, it's difficult to manually manipulate data. Typically when you're dealing with spreadsheets, which is still what most people are using as their tool today, we take a totally different approach. We make everybody aware of what's actually happening in real time. We don't blast you with noise that's just going to make deafening everything out.
Right.
You've told us what's important. If this impacts some of the decision making you said is critical to your day to day, we'll push that information to you, and then you can always just go back into the system and tweak and adjust, because as I said, it's designed to be very, very customizable to the individual user.
Wow. I mean, something else I wanted to bring up too, just talking about that with this massive amount of data, and this is certainly an issue for a lot of companies, is data security. What are some of the measures that you take to control that?
Well, complete bank level security. If there was, there's no step we're not taking. Let me put it to you that way. But also with the understanding, I'm an ex-military guy, former special operations, and trust me, when it comes to data security, we have an expression around here is, are we paranoid enough? And that really drives how we actually look at protecting a customer's data, because it is absolutely fundamental to the customer's not just needs, but for us as the credibility of our company, knowing that there are clear and present existential threats constantly out there trying to penetrate is something that we are on point on, and will always remain to be vigilant in that area.
I would imagine a special forces background is pretty advantageous when setting a company ethos around something like that.
Yep.
Well, Barry, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. Really fascinating discussion, really interesting use of all of this data and just kind of streamlining things and making it easier for companies. And for everybody out there who, if there's a company that wants to use the service, where would we direct them?
We're here in Austin, Texas. This is our global headquarters. We have some operations overseas, but just give us a call here in Austin, Texas, and reach out to our website. And we'd be more than happy to kind of set up a demonstration and bring you into the picture of real-time, what real-time can really do for your supply chain.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here on Digital Trends Live.
Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it.
All right, so really interesting, right? Talking about using all of that data and streamlining these things, and that is a really fascinating use. That's overall, so check them out, and of course, check out all of our interviews here at digitaltrends.com. We've got more coming up. I know I need to get to a break. We've got some news for you. We've got some updates on some different things, and we've got some more interviews coming up, so stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Again, thank you for joining us wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button. I say it a lot, but I mean it. Please hit that subscribe button. Share the show. Let other people know about it. We have a lot of fun here talking about technology, and let's do that right now. I want to bring you up to date on some trending stories. The first one is this. The Mars rover, the Mars 2020 rover, that is happening. It's going to be launching, and it's getting ever closer to that, but it doesn't have a name, and there's been a competition going on for that for actually quite some time, where students from all over the country, K through 12 students, submitted in their names, potential names for it. They received 28,000 essays describing what the names should be. That was whittled down to 155 semifinalists, and then it got down to 9 different names: endurance, tenacity, promise, perseverance, vision, clarity, ingenuity, fortitude, and courage. Originality was not one of the names, but that is the thing. So we've got these 9 different names here, and it's going to be decided between one of those, and one of them will be chosen. Actually, it's already been chosen, but it'll be announced tomorrow. So that's the key thing here from this. Tomorrow is when they'll be announcing it. So March 5th is when they'll say which one of these really, really impressive names will be for the Mars rover 2020. I think here's what I'll do. Since it has to be between those, I'm going to make a bet. Or I'm going to make a guess. And if I get this right, I want everybody to tweet out that Greg was right. Here it is. I think it's going to be tenacity. I'm going with tenacity. That's what I'm putting my money on. I think tenacity is going to be the winner. You heard it here first. You don't even need to watch NASA's announcement tomorrow. I already told you what it's going to be, but we'll watch it anyway. So that's coming up tomorrow. Tenacity, I think, is what it's going to be out of those 9. You can read more about this, though, at digitaltrends.com. All right, continuing on here with some news stories. Let's go from that to robots, because they're going to take all of our jobs pretty soon, and Boston Dynamics is going to be leading that charge. We know about their Spot robot. That is one of the ones that they've had for quite a while, but what about Handle? Handle is their new wheeled nightmare, and this is something that's actually going to be used in factories now. This is a video that they posted. We've seen it actually before. I know I say nightmare, but it really is actually doing a valuable job. So they teamed up with Otto. So this is the Otto 1500, and this is in particular something that they've teamed up with. So they had Handle before. This is teaming up with Otto and creating the Otto 1500. So there it is. It's on wheels, lifts boxes, works in a warehouse, drops those boxes onto there, and that is how that thing is accomplishing those jobs. It's pretty unique how it's actually picking them up. They believe that this is actually a working warehouse, apparently, that they're using this in. They believe that this is something that can actually revolutionize warehouses. And if you think about shipping and how big shipping is now with Amazon and different things like that, as far as delivering packages on time, using a robot to lift these heavy packages is ostensibly a lot faster way. It looks kind of like a wheeler from Return to Oz to me, which is why I think I said nightmare. That's a reference that probably not a lot of people, oh, we got it. There, that's what it reminded me of the second that I saw it. If you've never seen Return to Oz, watch it. It is not a fun movie. It is way different than the original Oz. That's actually a sequel that came out with the Wheelers, or these weird, creepy things. That's a talking chicken, by the way. That's a whole thing. That's a whole thing we can get into another time. That's what I thought of, though, when I saw that. Has nothing to do with anything other than what went through my head. But that's what we're at. So you can take a look at this at digitaltrends.com, another use case of robots in the workforce, and they expect there will be more of those going forward. Let us know what you think in the comments. All right. Final thing here. We're talking about robots. Let's continue on with it. So DARPA has been having a competition that's been going on actually for a while regarding underground robots and the use cases for them, particularly in emergency services. And they're having this competition go on. DARPA, by the way, is Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. A lot of the tech that we utilize has somehow been associated with them. They work on very secretive things. This is something that's not secret, though. They've been live streaming this, actually. And so this competition has different sections going on with it. And what just happened over the last 2 weeks was the subterranean urban challenge side of it. So they went to, this is actually just south of Seattle. There's an unfinished nuclear facility there, nuclear being nuclear energy facility, but it has a lot of tunnels and urban underground and cave networks. And what these things are designed to do is operate autonomously or via some amount of control through these underground areas where obviously you're not going to get a lot of signals. It's dark, the terrain is varied, and it needs to be able to navigate that on its own. So the challenge is associated with that because they believe, if there's an emergency situation where humans can't get down there, that's something that could work. There was the winning team for this section of the Subterranean Challenge, actually used a spot robot from Boston Dynamics and then outfitted it with a bunch of different sensors and different ways that it could navigate. There it is right there, kind of showcasing what it could do in a different kind of environment. And that's the one that won. So that won the competition. They won some money on that. It was a team up with JPL, which is the Jet Propulsion Laboratory from NASA. And it's called CoStar. So that was the winning one of this. It navigated very well, I guess, throughout all of these underground things. Now, the next one they've got coming up as part of this is going to be a cave section. And that's going to be taking place in August of this year. So they had a tunnel circuit that took place. This was the urban circuit, then the cave circuit, and then the final event is not going to be for another year. It's August 2021, and then they'll determine the winner for this, but it's all designed to actually utilize robotics, autonomous robots in particular, to help emergency services going forward. Could be a pretty good use case for it. You can read more about it at digitaltrends.com. All right. Here's what's next. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about a disruption to ride sharing and how that's changing. We've got the founder and CEO of Go360, Sravran Padagunta, who's going to be joining us to talk about their platform and how it's different and how you'll want to take it. So that's coming up next. Stick around back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us. We'd like to keep you up to date on what is trending in technology and certainly different ways that tech can disrupt established industries or change it up or utilize different facets of technology and combining them into one way that we can actually find some benefits through that. And that's what we're going to talk about in part right now and a lot more. We've got Sravran Padagunta, who's the founder and CEO of Go360. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me here.
Go360 I find to be a really fascinating platform. Can you give us kind of the rundown of what you saw in the marketplace that you thought you could do better?
Yeah, so traditional ride-hailing services are used on an ad hoc basis. So they have, very low daily active usage. So what we found is, 65% of all transportation in the United States is less than 5 miles. So for us, we wanted to address a specific need where people can use a service on a daily basis. So on average, most incumbent ride-hailing services have, 12% weekly active usage and a 2% daily active. So we're going after the market segment that would use this on a regular basis.
So you're talking about basically replacing somebody driving their own vehicle or public transportation and utilizing this kind of service.
So, like I said, the 65% of the trips are less than 5 miles. So we specifically provide multimodal transportation. So we feed passengers to existing transit lines. So think about like the Amtraks, the BARTs, and the Caltrains. of the world. So we would provide the connectivity to pick up the passengers at the train station and then take them to through the first and last mile leg of the trip.
So, okay, gotcha. So it's somebody who's already utilizing something like that, but then they can have a ride there ready to go to get to that last part of their destination, whether it's commuting to work or getting back home or something along those lines.
Yes, and we offer a monthly subscription. So even in terms of pricing, a lot of users currently check the rates before they use the apps. But due to the monthly subscription, you can use the apps on a regular basis, and you don't have to worry about the price fluctuations based on traffic.
What kind of vehicles are being used, and how does that section of it work as far as the drivers?
Yeah, so our thesis is to have a zero carbon footprint of using all electric vehicle fleet. So initially we're starting off with Tesla Model S and Model 3 vehicles, and we're gradually expanding to other types of vehicles as the market has more choices. One of the benefits of the electric vehicles is oftentimes they have much better technical integrations. So for example, in the Teslas, we can control the climate and then set the navigation on behalf of the driver, so they're spending more time hands-free, even while using a ride-hailing app.
So are the Teslas provided by Go360, or are you seeking out Tesla owners to be the drivers?
Yeah, so we have preferred partners who are looking to lease their underutilized Teslas to our drivers. So essentially, we introduce our drivers to these partners with pre-negotiated monthly subscription or lease fees for the Teslas.
Gotcha. And how does the earnings, this is just something that I know a lot of people will ask, because we know a lot of people who are Uber drivers or Lyft drivers or something like that going over to this service. How does the earnings work on that end for the driver?
Yeah, so we are doing shared rides in the first and last mile. So because the passengers are sharing the rides, the vehicle utilization is higher, which means we can actually afford to pay the drivers a higher hourly wage compared to only paying them when the ride is booked. And the second aspect is our subscription-based pricing model makes the revenue more predictable. So we pay our drivers on an hourly basis compared to Uber and Lyft, which pay their drivers whenever a ride is booked.
Interesting. Okay, so that I would think might be an attractive solution for some of these drivers too, just as far as something more guaranteed. Looking at it going forward too, as talking about this, I want to, I guess, address how the consumer uses it. Now you mentioned there's a subscription service. Can you walk us through what that experience is like for them?
Yeah, so when you subscribe, you get 4 rides per day, and this can be shared between family and friends. So it's very similar to, for example, using Netflix. You have one account that's shared between multiple people. And once the user signs up, they can hail a ride. Our average pickup time is 5 minutes, and the average trip time is 15 minutes. And let's say they want to go from Berkeley to San Francisco, go between cities. We would pick them up, drop them off at the multimodal train station. So then they can take BART or Caltrain or whatever to get across cities. And then we would pick them up at the last mile and drop them off at their final destination. And that would consume 2 rides out of the 4 that they have for the day.
So it really is incorporating all of those different, like you said, multimodal transportation. So it'd be less than 15 minutes in that ride to get to wherever BART is or whatever train they're going to take. And then somebody would be waiting for them when they arrive?
Yeah, and we found that majority of the traffic is seen on arterial roads, on-ramps and off-ramps and highways. And this is why the Uber and Lyft fares are very high when going between cities. By leveraging multimodal transit, you get the best of both worlds. You have the door-to-door service on the first and last mile, and then you have the predictable schedule of going between cities. And oftentimes during commute hours, it's actually more efficient to travel between cities using public transit.
Looking at this going forward, and as you're expanding, and I know it's saying right there, started in Sacramento, expanding to the Bay Area, and I'll talk about that side as well, but like say 5 years from now, where would you like to see this service incorporated, and how are there other forms of transportation that you're looking at to maybe incorporate?
Yeah, so once we have more predictability on the demand side of how people like to travel between cities, we can also start offering solutions for transporting people across cities as well. Initially, we're also building data infrastructure for self-driving vehicles on the first and last mile leg of the trip. Eventually, we do see self-driving vehicles operating here. And we have in-house training programs so our drivers can graduate from driving to doing data collection, sensor calibration, routing and dispatching operations for self-driving cars. So we have a very intrinsic process where the drivers can graduate from being a driver to someone who's more integral to a self-driving car operation.
Looking at it going forward, I guess just talking about different kinds of technology that we're seeing incorporated into some kinds of ride shares. Have you looked at anything with augmented reality or virtual reality as far as entertainment features within a ride?
Yeah, definitely. So for us, the AR turn by turn is something that we're going to be bringing to the table over the next year or so. And the reason why this is important is the drivers and passengers have a really hard time finding each other, especially in urban canyons. So the AR turn by turn is a technology that would be deployed both on the driver's side, but also on the passenger side. We would be using vision-based localization technology to localize the passenger to within 30 centimeters within the real world. And then the driver's navigation system would be lane level accurate, and it would route the driver to find the passenger in a more easier way. And this is a very large problem for incumbent ride sharing services today because they rely on GPS and that's not quite accurate enough.
Well, and talking about that, being an incumbent ride-sharing service, even though ride-sharing as an industry isn't that old in the grand scheme of things, there are certainly established, competitors in there, and Uber and Lyft, and those ones definitely being at the forefront. What's the response been as far as bringing in competition to them?
Yeah, so I think one of the key differentiations about Go360 is the unified product experience. So all of the vehicles that we operate meet a certain level of quality. The employees that we're hiring as drivers, they're not running through red lights to get their next ride. They're paid on an hourly basis, and we optimize to have more supply as the demand increases throughout the day, and our revenue is much more predictable. So overall, I would say the multimodal, timely rides and the safety aspect are what really differentiates us. And then we're also, developing some underlying technology to build the self-driving data infrastructure in the future. And the biggest stakeholders for that future is our rider base. So I think we would be targeting a different segment than the type of passengers that would use Uber and Lyft on like an ad hoc basis.
I think another key differentiation.
As I mentioned, the daily active usage is quite low.
I think another key differentiation too is just something that you just said when you mentioned employee, which is definitely a different stance than some other companies take on that. Is that something that you expect going forward to where your drivers will be employees of Go360?
Yeah, I mean, from the get-go, even in our CPUC permit application, we specifically stated that the drivers would be categorized as employees, part-time employees, or full-time employees. We provide workers' compensation, we pay them by the hour. One of the perks of doing so is we have more control of what goes into the vehicle, what type of technology we mandate as a standard for use in our service.
Talking about where you're at right now, too, I just want to let people know, where they can actually go utilize the service, because it sounds really, really interesting. I could see this being really popular in a place like Portland, where we are. But you started in Sacramento, you're going to the Bay Area. What are the expansion plans right now?
Yeah, so we're starting off in Sacramento, expanding to Davis in the first 2 quarters, and then we'll be deploying into Berkeley, Emeryville, Oakland, San Francisco as phase 2. So our goal is to connect all of the cities that are touching Amtrak, BART, and Caltrain. So that's about 15 cities throughout the Bay Area. So in the next 18 months, we'd be deployed in all 15 of those.
Nice. Well, and what's the best website for people to go to learn more about it?
Yeah, so if you go to go360.io, we have a lot of information and the links to download the apps on the Android Play Store or Google App Store.
Well, Shravan, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this. Really fascinating. Congratulations on the success. This sounds like a really unique solution that I feel like a lot of people are looking for, and looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Yeah, we'd be happy to have you as one of our customers someday. Thank you so much.
Love to.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye. All right, so that is a really interesting use. We talk a lot about multimodal transportation, and that's something that we bring up, these different ways that people are getting around cities and different ways that they're that transportation is working, but incorporating it all into one and using electric vehicles. There's a few different things in there. Also, that use of the word employee. If you know about Uber, they don't call their drivers employees. So that is, I think, also a big difference that maybe kind of underlying there between the different services. All right, that's it for today. But tomorrow on Digital Trends Live, we've got Naven Narain, who's the CEO of Berg Health, who'll be joining us. Berg is a next-gen drug and diagnostic biopharma company using AI to help map diseases and develop new treatments. So we'll get some insight into how companies look at outbreaks like the coronavirus. Yes, we'll still be talking about the coronavirus. We're all going to be talking about that forever. It's forever. That's just our lives now. Also, Aaron Keeney and Riley will be on with Real News, looking at the movies that deserve your dollars at the box office this weekend. This week, they're reviewing The Way Back with Ben Affleck and Anthony Mackie and Samuel L. Jackson's The Banker and Pixar's latest Onward. So that's going to be tomorrow. Digital Trends Lisa Maria Segarra will also be on for her weekly take on what's trending in gaming. So you can tune in live at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, on whatever platform you consume video content. Hit the subscribe button while you're there. For Digital Trends, I'm Greg Nibbler. I'll see you right back here tomorrow.